The challenge begins. The galaxy had known of her for years, the alien princess, feared by all. Her name alone struck terror in the hearts of those who heard it. She was a powerful leader, known for her strength, intelligence, and beauty. But it wasn't just her power that made her feared, it was the dark reputation she had earned from years of crushing her enemies without mercy. No one dared challenge her, no one except the bravest, the strongest, or the most foolish. The princess ruled with an iron fist, and her enemies learned to stay out of her way. She commanded entire fleets of ships, and no one, not even the mightiest warriors of the galaxy, dared stand against her. She had taken planets, conquered empires, and left a trail of destruction wherever she went. Her reputation was enough to keep even the most fearless soldiers trembling. But one day, the princess did something no one expected. She issued a challenge to any human who thought they could match her strength. The entire galaxy fell silent. Everyone was watching. Who would accept her challenge? Who would dare to face the one who had never been defeated? The challenge was simple but dangerous. The princess was to fight anyone who was brave enough to stand in her way. A battle to the death. The winner would gain the right to claim the title of Champion of the Galaxy. But there was a catch: the princess would choose the opponent, and she would never choose a weak one. Many had heard the rumors, but they thought it was a joke. No one could defeat the princess, they believed. No one was brave enough to even try. It was a fool's quest to think otherwise. But there was one person, one human, who saw things differently. His name was Alex, and he was a soldier. A soldier who had seen his fair share of battles, who had fought in wars across planets, who had witnessed the horrors of space. He was not afraid of death, but what frightened him was the thought of never standing up for what was right. He had heard the stories of the alien princess, of her unstoppable power, and he had made up his mind, he would face her. Alex was not the biggest or the strongest of men, but he had something that many others lacked: courage. His heart was as strong as steel, and his determination was unshakable. He was no hero, but he believed in the power of standing up for what was right, no matter the cost. When Alex first heard the challenge, he did not hesitate. Some might call him crazy, others might call him brave. But to Alex, it didn't matter. This was more than just a fight, it was a statement. It was a statement to the galaxy that humanity would not be ruled by fear, that they could stand tall in the face of any enemy, no matter how powerful. The news spread like wildfire. The princess had issued her challenge, and now, one human had stepped forward. The entire galaxy watched as Alex prepared to face the most fearsome ruler in the universe. People from every corner of space whispered his name. Would he be the one to defeat the princess? Or would he fall like so many before him? Alex didn't care about the whispers. He didn't care about the fear. He cared about one thing: standing in front of the princess and showing the galaxy that humans had the strength to fight back. He wasn't looking for glory or fame. He just wanted to prove that humanity was not weak. He wanted to show that they could face any challenge, even the ones that seemed impossible. As the day of the challenge approached, Alex stood in front of the mirror, his reflection staring back at him. He was just a soldier. A human. Nothing special. But today, he would make history. Today, he would prove that even the smallest spark could light a fire that would burn through the darkness. The princess's palace was massive, built on a world far from the eyes of the galaxy. It was a place of legend, a place where only the strongest could survive. The arena where the battle would take place was surrounded by thousands of watchers, their faces cold and silent. Alex's heart raced as he stood at the gates, waiting for the moment to enter. "Are you sure you want to do this?" a voice asked behind him. It was his captain, a man who had known Alex for years, a man who had fought alongside him in many battles. His voice was filled with worry, but Alex only nodded. "I have to," he said simply. "For humanity. For what's right." With that, the gates of the palace opened, and Alex stepped forward. The air was thick with anticipation. He could feel the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. Every eye in the universe was on him. But he didn't care. This was his moment, and he would face it head-on. The princess awaited him in the center of the arena, her tall figure standing like a shadow in the distance. As Alex walked toward her, he could feel her eyes on him, cold and calculating. She was waiting, as if to see if he would turn and run. But Alex did not falter. He kept his eyes fixed on her, his heart steady. This was more than just a fight. This was a challenge to everything the princess stood for. And Alex was ready to face it, no matter what came next. The first encounter. The moment Alex stepped into the arena, the air seemed to freeze. The entire galaxy was watching, and it felt like every eye in the universe was upon him. The floor beneath his boots felt like it could crack open at any moment, but he didn't let it show. He wasn't here to be afraid, he was here to face his destiny. The arena was a vast, open space, surrounded by towering walls made of dark stone. The sun above was blocked by a strange, glowing dome that gave the entire area an eerie, otherworldly light. And in the center of it all stood the princess, tall, regal, and fearsome, like a statue carved from pure power. She wore armor that shimmered with the light of distant stars, and her eyes seemed to pierce through the very fabric of space. Alex could feel his heart pounding in his chest, but he forced himself to take steady steps toward her. He didn't come this far to turn back. The princess was waiting, her expression unreadable, but there was something about her that seemed different from the stories. The legends didn't capture the full picture. She wasn't just a force of destruction, there was an intelligence, a cold wisdom, in her gaze that sent a chill down his spine. As he approached, the sound of thousands of whispers echoed through the arena, but they were muffled, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The princess didn't move. She didn't speak. She simply stood there, waiting for him to make the first move. Alex stopped just a few feet from her, his eyes locked with hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. It was as if time had stopped entirely, the weight of their meeting hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. Finally, the princess broke the silence. Her voice was calm, almost soothing, but there was an edge to it that made Alex's skin crawl. "You are the human who answered my challenge," she said, her voice echoing off the stone walls. "Tell me, why do you seek death?" Alex met her gaze, unwavering. "I don't seek death," he replied. "I seek to prove that humans can stand against anyone, no matter how powerful they are." The princess smiled then, though it wasn't a smile of kindness. "You think your words are enough to change fate?" she asked, her tone almost mocking. "You think your courage can match the strength of my empire?" Her words stung, but Alex didn't let it show. "I think courage is all anyone needs to fight," he said. "And I have plenty of it." For a moment, the princess studied him, as if trying to understand him in a way that words could not explain. Then, without warning, she moved. Her speed was unreal, faster than anything Alex had ever seen. One moment, she was standing still, and the next, she was right in front of him. Her hand shot out, aiming for his throat, her fingers like daggers. Alex barely had time to react. His instincts kicked in, and he sidestepped just in time, feeling the air whoosh by as her hand missed him by inches. The force of her swing was so powerful that it sent a shockwave through the air, rattling his bones. He didn't have time to think, only to move. Alex quickly countered, his fist flying toward the princess's face. But she was faster. She blocked his punch with ease, her armor glowing as the impact reverberated through the air. Alex stumbled back, barely keeping his balance. She was like nothing he had ever fought before. The princess didn't stop. She attacked again, this time with a series of strikes so fast that Alex could barely keep up. Every blow was calculated, precise, and full of power. He tried to dodge, to block, but it was like trying to stop a storm with his bare hands. Her strength was unmatched, and her skill was like nothing he had ever experienced. But Alex wasn't a soldier who gave up easily. He fought back, using every bit of his training, every ounce of energy. He may not have had the raw power the princess did, but he had something she didn't: he had heart. He kept moving, kept pushing himself, refusing to give in. Each punch, each kick, was a defiance of the odds stacked against him. The battle raged on, the sounds of their fight echoing through the arena. It was a clash of power and will, the princess's raw strength against Alex's determination. And for the first time, the princess found herself being pushed back. She had underestimated him, and now she was feeling the pressure. She paused, a momentary flicker of surprise crossing her face. For just a brief second, she saw it, something that she had never seen before in any opponent. A human, standing his ground, not out of arrogance, but out of belief. Belief that even in the face of impossible odds, they could fight. The princess narrowed her eyes, her expression hardening. "You're stronger than I thought," she muttered under her breath. "But will your strength be enough?" Alex didn't answer. Instead, he lunged forward again, a determined fire in his eyes. He wasn't about to stop. Not now. Not when he had come so far. The test of strength. The battle had taken a toll on both fighters. The arena was littered with cracks from their collisions, the ground scorched by the force of their blows. Sweat dripped from Alex's brow as he gasped for breath, his muscles aching from the relentless fight. But his spirit, his will to fight, was stronger than ever. He refused to let it end here, not when he had come so far. The princess, too, was breathing heavily, her eyes burning with determination. Her strikes were powerful, but Alex's resistance was something she had never expected. She had faced countless opponents, but none had stood up to her for this long. None had fought with such heart, such raw, unyielding courage. The longer the fight went on, the more intrigued she became. She took a step back, circling him slowly, her eyes never leaving his. Her armor gleamed in the dim light, a stark contrast to Alex's worn and tattered uniform. He had taken a beating, but he was still standing. He wasn't the biggest or the strongest, but there was something about him that made him a challenge, something that caught her off guard. "You fight well, human," she said, her voice cold but filled with an unexpected respect. "But strength alone will not win this battle. I've faced foes far stronger than you. You must learn more than just brute force." Alex wiped the blood from his lip and stood taller. His arms were sore, but his mind was sharp. He knew what she meant. He wasn't just fighting her strength, he was fighting her experience, her power, and the weight of her reign. But there was one thing he had that she didn't: human ingenuity, the ability to adapt and think on his feet. He wasn't going to play her game. "I've never fought with only strength," Alex said between ragged breaths. "I fight with everything I have, every ounce of will, every bit of strategy. I've faced worse than this, and I'm not backing down now." The princess narrowed her eyes, a flicker of something like amusement in her gaze. "You think you can outsmart me?" she asked. "I've crushed the greatest minds of the galaxy. What makes you think you're different?" Alex didn't answer with words. Instead, he shifted his stance, preparing himself for the next phase of the fight. His eyes scanned the arena, watching every movement she made. She was fast, but he was faster. He wasn't just going to try to match her strength, he was going to use her own power against her. Without warning, he launched himself toward her, moving with the grace of a trained soldier, his body a blur of motion. The princess reacted immediately, her arms sweeping out to block his attack. But Alex wasn't aiming for a direct hit. Instead, he feigned a punch, only to twist his body at the last second and land a blow to her side. It wasn't much, but it was enough to throw her off balance. The princess staggered, her confidence shaken for the first time in the battle. She recovered quickly, but it was clear that Alex had made his mark. For the first time, the princess began to show signs of uncertainty. She had always been in control, always been the one to dictate the pace of the fight. But now, for the first time, she was facing an opponent who wasn't intimidated by her power, someone who fought back with cleverness and a fierce determination. She gritted her teeth, her pride now on the line. "You may have caught me off guard," she said, her voice colder than before. "But you are still no match for me. You will never defeat me." But Alex didn't respond. He didn't need to. His actions spoke louder than any words he could say. The fight wasn't just about power, it was about proving something much bigger. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity had the strength, the heart, to stand up against anything, even the most powerful being in the universe. Alex's movements grew more precise as the fight continued. He had no intention of matching the princess's raw power. Instead, he used his agility, his ability to read her movements, and his understanding of combat to keep her on the defensive. He struck when she least expected it, dodged when she thought she had him cornered, and kept the pressure on. The princess's frustration grew. Her strikes became fiercer, more desperate. She had underestimated him, and now, she was paying the price. Every time she thought she had him, he slipped away, his speed and cunning outmatching her strength. "Enough of this," the princess shouted, her voice filled with fury. She raised her hand high, calling upon the full extent of her power. The arena trembled as the air around her began to crackle with energy. The ground beneath them shook, and Alex's heart raced as he realized what was about to happen. The princess was going all out. She wasn't holding back anymore. The intensity of her energy surged around her, a storm of power that threatened to tear the arena apart. But Alex didn't flinch. He had faced worse before. He knew this was it, the moment where the battle would either end in victory or defeat. He wasn't afraid. He had already proven to himself that he was stronger than the fear he had once carried. Now, all he had to do was survive long enough to show the princess that she had underestimated humanity. The turning point. The arena quaked as the princess's energy surged. The ground beneath Alex's feet split open, sending cracks of fiery energy into the air. The princess stood at the center, her eyes glowing with a fierce light, her power radiating like a storm ready to strike. The very atmosphere seemed to warp around her as she called upon her true strength. This wasn't just a fight anymore, it was a battle of wills, a struggle for dominance in the universe. Alex's heart raced. He knew he was up against something far beyond what he had imagined. The princess wasn't just fighting to win, she was fighting to destroy him. The energy surrounding her was like nothing he had ever seen, more powerful than any weapon he had ever faced. Her hand, raised high, crackled with raw energy, the air around it distorted with the force of her power. But Alex didn't flinch. He had come this far, and he wasn't about to back down now. He had been through too much, too many battles, too many wars, and he had always found a way to keep fighting. He would not lose here. He dodged as a bolt of pure energy shot from the princess's hand, the force of it tearing through the ground where he had stood only a moment before. The explosion was deafening, and the shockwave sent Alex sprawling to the ground. His body ached, his vision blurred, but he forced himself to his feet, his resolve hardening. He had to keep moving. The princess looked down at him with disdain, her lips curling into a smile of amusement. "You are strong, human. But you cannot win," she said, her voice like ice. "You are nothing compared to me. I am a force of nature. I have conquered empires. What makes you think you stand a chance?" Alex didn't respond. He couldn't. She was right in one sense, he was nothing compared to her power. But what she didn't understand was that power wasn't everything. It wasn't about who was stronger or faster, it was about who had the will to keep going, no matter the odds. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. The battle wasn't over, not yet. His strength was running low, and his body screamed for rest. But he couldn't afford to rest. Not now. He needed something more, something he had learned from years of fighting, he needed to outlast her. He had to tire her out. The princess's energy was immense, but even the greatest powers had limits. He had to push her, force her to make mistakes, and use her own power against her. Alex moved quickly, darting to the side as another bolt of energy shot toward him. The princess was relentless, firing blast after blast, each one more powerful than the last. But each time she missed, her frustration grew. Her attacks became more erratic, less controlled. She was losing focus. Alex noticed it, a small crack in her perfect composure. It was just a moment, but it was enough. He had to act quickly. With all the energy he had left, Alex charged forward, closing the distance between them in a blur of motion. The princess saw him coming, and her eyes widened in surprise. But it was too late. Alex leaped, using the last of his strength to land a blow to her side, right where her armor was weakest. The impact sent a shock through her, and she stumbled back, her energy faltering for just a moment. It wasn't a decisive blow, but it was enough to shake her. Enough to make her realize that she wasn't invincible. For the first time, the princess felt doubt creeping into her mind. She had underestimated him, and now she was paying the price. She had relied too much on her power and too little on strategy. Her breathing was heavier now, the energy around her flickering and fading. Her once calm demeanor was beginning to crack, replaced by frustration and confusion. What are you?" she muttered, more to herself than to him. "How are you still standing?" Alex, panting, looked at her with eyes that had seen more than their fair share of battles. "I'm just a human," he said quietly. "And I fight for something more than power. I fight for the future. For my people. For everyone who's ever been told they can't win." The princess narrowed her eyes, her pride bruised. But in that moment, something shifted. She saw the truth in his words. For the first time, she was forced to confront the fact that it wasn't just strength that made someone powerful, it was what they stood for. And this human, despite all his weaknesses, stood for something far greater than her. She took a step back, her expression unreadable. Her energy, once so overwhelming, began to wane, her strength faltering. She had underestimated him from the beginning, and now, she could see the cost of her mistake. You fight for more than just yourself," the princess said, her voice softer now, almost reluctant. "I didn't think any human could possess such conviction." Alex didn't answer. He didn't need to. His actions had spoken for him. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for the future of his people, for something bigger than himself. And that, he knew, was what would win the day. The princess took a deep breath, her power receding but not entirely gone. "Perhaps I misjudged you," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Maybe there is more to humans than I ever imagined." Alex stood tall, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. "You can't stop us," he said, his voice firm. "No matter how strong you are, you can't stop humanity." And in that moment, the princess knew that she had been wrong all along. It wasn't just about power. It was about belief. And humanity had plenty of that. The unlikely victory. The princess stood before Alex, her posture still regal, but now tinged with something else, uncertainty. The battle had taken its toll on her, her once glowing energy flickering like a dying star. For the first time, the power she had relied on for so long seemed insufficient. She had faced countless warriors, but none had ever made her question her superiority. None had ever made her feel human. Alex, on the other hand, was far from perfect. His clothes were torn, his body bruised and battered. His breathing was shallow, each inhale a struggle, yet his eyes remained sharp. The same fire that had burned within him when he first stepped into the arena still raged on. He wasn't here just for himself anymore. He was here for everyone who had ever been told they were too weak to stand up for what was right. The princess's voice cut through the silence, her words hesitant. "Why do you fight so desperately?" she asked, her gaze softer than before. "You could have turned back, fled, why didn't you?" Alex's chest rose and fell with each breath, but his voice was steady. "I fight because I believe we can change the world," he said, his words simple but powerful. "Humans, we've always been underestimated. But we've fought for what's right, even when the odds were against us. And I'll keep fighting, no matter what." The princess stared at him, her mind racing. His words were like a dagger to her pride, but in them, there was something undeniable. Something she had never experienced: hope. For the first time, she wasn't facing an enemy who feared her. She wasn't facing an enemy who sought power or glory. She was facing someone who fought for something bigger than himself, someone whose courage and conviction had shattered the walls she had built around herself. You fight for more than just yourself," she whispered, almost as if realizing it for the first time. "You fight for your people, for your future. It's not about winning for you. It's about believing that you can." Alex nodded, his voice calm but resolute. "Exactly. And I'll keep fighting, even if it costs me everything." A long silence stretched between them, the weight of their words hanging in the air. The battle was no longer about strength or power. It was about something deeper, a clash of ideals, of beliefs. The princess, for all her strength, had never faced such conviction. And Alex, for all his human frailty, had never faced a challenge so great. Yet, in that moment, they were no longer enemies. They were two beings caught in a larger struggle, and the battle had become more than just a fight. The princess took a step back, her expression unreadable. She had been ready to destroy him. She had been prepared to crush this human, just as she had done with so many before him. But now, she couldn't. Something had changed within her. Something had shifted in the very core of her being. Her voice was quieter now, as though speaking to herself. "I have never met anyone like you." Alex looked at her, still standing firm. "You don't have to destroy me," he said softly. "There's another way." For a moment, the princess didn't respond. Her eyes, once filled with arrogance and power, were now searching for something she hadn't known she was looking for. Respect. Understanding. A way to change the course of her own destiny. Then, to Alex's surprise, she lowered her weapon. Her shoulders, once rigid with authority, softened. "Perhaps I was wrong," she said, her voice steady but filled with an emotion Alex had never expected: regret. "Maybe it's not power that makes a ruler. Maybe it's the ability to change. To listen. To care." Alex stood in stunned silence. He had expected to win through sheer force, through battle. But this? This was something entirely unexpected. Something neither he nor the princess had anticipated. He had won, not by defeating her in combat, but by breaking through the walls of her pride, by showing her that there was more to strength than power. The princess looked at him, and for the first time, there was no arrogance in her gaze. Only understanding. She stepped forward, extending her hand, an offer of peace, not just between them, but for the future. "Human," she said, her voice now filled with a deep, newfound respect, "you have earned something that no one else has. You have earned the right to stand beside me, not as an enemy, but as an equal." Alex hesitated for a moment, his heart racing. Could this be real? Could the princess, the one who had been feared by all, truly be offering peace? He took a deep breath and extended his hand, shaking hers firmly. In that moment, the battle was over. The war for supremacy had ended, and a new alliance had begun. One forged not in violence, but in mutual respect. The arena, once filled with the sounds of their fierce fight, was now silent. The galaxy, watching through its countless monitors, was still. For the first time in history, a human had not only survived an encounter with the most powerful being in the universe but had won something far more significant: respect. As Alex stood there, hand in hand with the alien princess, he knew that the future had just begun. A future where humans would no longer be seen as weak. A future where they would be respected. A future where humanity would rise, not with weapons, but with strength, conviction, and unity. And that was the true victory.